Good evening, everyone. Time for another Precious Metals Outlook. My name is JR. Today's Tuesday, August the 4th, 2015. This will be a two-part video. First part being technical analysis. The second part will be some articles that I'd like to show. Here are some of these articles. Comparison and quantitative easing versus the Dow Jones. Some of the things that some of these big money, Carl Icahn, and a few other articles that I'd like to show you guys. But first, we'll get to the video analysis. This is your monthly chart. Still respecting this long-term trend. It's been intact since 2001, right? And currently testing this level here. This is a level of support, so I do expect, again, a little bit of a move to the upside. Now, we did break this big level here, okay? I talked about that level here plenty of times here on the monthly basis. Actually, this is the level here. All right, that was the level here. We finally broke through that level. Big move to the downside. And this is actually the first monthly close below this 1172 area. Since back in November of 2014, we saw a little bit of a dip, very fast move to the upside after that dip. But again, this is the first time we've managed to close below this level here on a monthly basis. Now we'll see how the next couple of months will play out. But again, we are in a level of support, so I do expect a big move. So I do expect a move at least back to this area here, and at least back to test this this previous low at around 1134, or this support level now turned resistance, right? Stochastics are still pointing south, so further room for downside. Again, keep in mind that based on this move here, the calculated target is roughly 1050, which is within this zone here. So even if we see a little bit more of a dip in this market, again, I wouldn't expect the dip to continue to go further, too much further down than 1050 without a little bit of a move to the upside and then continuing the move, if in fact we will continue the move down, okay? So again, that's the monthly chart. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out is that on this monthly chart, I'll take some of these lines out. We are seeing a descending wedge. Now, these descending wedges, we know they're fairly bullish, and even though we are below the descending wedge, it does not mean that the descending wedge will not play out. The only times these declining wedges, the only time they usually don't play out is when you see a big move to the downside. So I would probably see a move maybe to the $1,000 range, to the low $1,000 range, if this wedge is not going to play out. So if this wedge is indeed going to play out, we need to find some support here at these levels, and this level here must hold. If the wedge does play out, then you can see a big move to the upside, maybe come back down, retest this level here before we see a big fast move, at least to test the 1300 area, right? That's on the monthly, but again, still sentiment is very negative. So again, I would not necessarily buy here. I've said it before that my buying range is probably going to be around this area here between 975 and 1,000. I don't know that it's going to go that far, but that's my next buying area. And this is because of this level here, right? This is the level that you want to buy. This is support. This is resistance right here. Now turn support. So you can see that the market came up here, came back down, came back up. So a lot of support here in this area here, and that should carry out to all the way down here, okay? Because this level is, again, a resistance. Now, this was a resistance, now turn support. And we can see a similar pattern back here where this was your established resistance and it became support. So we came back down here. It took us quite some time to get above this level here, finally broke above, came back down. So a big correction. This correction was back in 2008. This was the 2008 recession. We saw a move of about 34% to the downside, found support here and this level here. This was resistance turned support. So this will be the exact same thing. So I do expect to find some support here between the 11,000 range all the way to 975. Okay, that's on your weekly zone, and let's on your weekly chart. And here is your daily chart. Okay, big move to the downside, fell below this key level here, 1131. Okay, and we had a big move to the downside, found some support here in this trend line, like I've said before. And currently, I mean, the market really was, I'll clean this up a bit, but the market was really setting up for a triangle, but there's so much confusion in this market here that the triangle did not play out at all. So this is what ended up happening, right? So you had a move to the downside. I actually thought that the market was going to continue to go down because, again, this is actually a bear flag, right? So this is your flagpole. This is your bear flag right here, okay? And a move below this level here, right? So let's say if this is where we were. So a move below this level here, 1082, should have brought this market down to, again, to test the target of 1050. Look what happened. The next candle, the very next candle actually went below, okay? It looked like the market was going to go down, and look what happened. You have a big outside day, okay? These outside days are really bullish. And we have not been able to fall below the 1080, which is the bottom of this outside day. Currently, we are below this flag, so this flag can technically play out. But if you notice, it's kind of hard to see it on the daily. You can see it a little bit better on the 4-hour chart, how how this flag was supposed to or should have played out. So you see here, we can see the flag a little bit more clear, and we can see that there were actually 2 fake outs in this chart. So here's the chart, here's the flag. You find some support, you find some resistance in this triangle here, okay? The market comes back down, tests then it tests this level here, the 1083. It goes back up, and then what happens? This is the area where the market should have tanked, and look what happened. You had a big move to the upside, unexpected, and then this was another breakout, another fake out, because again, now you think that the market is going to continue to go higher, and look what it does. It goes right back into this triangle. So still trading sideways. So for now, I'm going to ignore all of these, and I'm going to see that right now what we have actually is a sideways consolidation before the next leg down, or before we start a new short-term trend back up to test these levels here between 1130 all the way up to a possible 1150, maybe even 1160. Market is still bearish though, okay? So the move to the downside is favorable, though we have seen that there's plenty of support down here on the longer term time frames, right? Let's look at silver. Okay, here's your chart on silver. Silver also looking very interesting. Your monthly chart here on silver. These are your levels to look out for, okay? This is your level of support. This is your next level of support here. And finally, we have this level. You can call this a level here, but this is a level on top of a level. I don't like those levels. I don't even like counting them because levels on top of levels usually don't play out really well. They don't hold as well. But if you don't count this one, then your next level would be the current level that we're in right now. We have not been able to fall below. We did breach the level because the low was 1466. We saw a low of 1432. Currently, the low so far for this month and last month is 1439. We have not gone below 1432. And for last month was 1439 to 1438. So we are yet to break below this level. This level technically is still holding. Stochastics are pointing south, so definitely more room to fall. And again, this would be the next level of a support. Actually, this looks like the level here. So you'd be looking at something like this. Okay. Now also keep in mind that silver does have this trend line here. Okay. So again, you have the Bollinger Band here at around 1345. You have this trend line here at around 14 even. And again, you have you're in a level of support. So I think silver will find some support here pretty soon, sooner than later. And another thing that I'd like to point out is that look at these moves that silver has made. Obviously, silver is a lot more volatile than gold, so the moves will be bigger. But this is what I want to point out here, that the moves on silver, that the ranges on silver are getting smaller and smaller. Look at that big, giant range, right? Then you have the next range, which is a little bit smaller than this one. And then you have the last range, which is this one, even smaller, okay? So the ranges are getting much smaller. Look, this is a very small range, and now this range is even smaller. And you could actually argue that silver is still within range. Unlike gold, where actually gold fell below its range, silver is actually within the same range, because again, this is the low 1432. On the monthly chart, it looks a little bit more clear. If you look at the daily chart, you don't see, it doesn't look as clear because of this giant wick. But again, this is technically, even though this wick kind of gets away from this is still considered part of the range. So in reality, silver is still trading within this range. But again, we can see that on the monthly, this is a very small range. And we have closed below this level here, which is not necessarily good. The stochastics are still moving south, so still further room to fall. I wouldn't be surprised if we test the low $14 range, maybe even the high 13s. But again, I think there's something building. And another thing that I'd like to point out here, that was your monthly chart. By the way, this is your weekly chart, right? Silver looks like it's building another wedge, and we've seen some of these wedges. So let's check out this weekly chart though first. This is the range where we are in, or this is where the current range right now. At the bottom of this range, if I'm looking at this weekly chart, the next range is going to be right here at around $13. But again, that's ignoring this this trend line from the monthly chart, right? Here it is. So again, we are looking to find some support here at the $14 level. So again, who knows? Maybe it'll never even touch this level here. Who knows? But as of now, this will be the levels of support that we'll be looking out for, right? On your daily chart now, your stochastics on the weekly are a bit oversold. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if we come up to the $15 range, maybe even the $16 range before this market decides what it's going to do. Let's look at the daily chart. This is your daily chart here on silver. Okay. Big trend line to the downside, still further room for falling. This is your zone right here. Okay, this is your sell zone. So we might come back over here to the high 14 range, test this level, and possibly come down. But again, when you're this far, when you're this low in the curve, you don't necessarily want to continue to push your luck. But again, ultimately, the target does seem to be like it's going to be the low 14. If this level here of 1432 does not hold. Okay. Now, this is what I wanted to point out here, is that silver is building. It looks like silver is building some sort of a wedge right here. Okay. So again, silver has made a few of these wedges, and these wedges play out really nicely on silver. Okay. And remember what I said earlier, that just because you're below the wedge, it doesn't mean that the wedge is not going to play out. If this wedge is not going to play out, then we need to see a big move to the downside, and then you can say that the wedge is not playing out. But if the price is a bit below the wedge, then the wedge technically can still come together. Okay, look at this wedge here, big move to the upside, and we had another wedge here. We were able to play out really most of these wedges. Another wedge here and a big move to the upside, and now it looks like we are building a probably the biggest wedge of all, which is this area here. Now let's see if we can match this trend line to see if okay, so you could have this trend, so this market could continue to go down, but it does look like we might have either this trend in play or this wedge in play. Only price action will tell here in the next couple of days and see what this market is going to do. On the monthly chart, here's the monthly chart for the Dow Jones. Here's the monthly chart for the Dow Jones. Okay. If anyone did not notice, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is your stochastics. Your stochastics follow price action, so it's a lagging indicator, but in certain respects, it does tell a story. So the market has been overbought for quite some time, and it has finally broken through this trend that the stochastics have. So this could be very, very, very bad for the stock market. I would pay very, very close attention to this level here. Okay, this level here, 17,000, key level to look out for. The next level to look out for would be this level here. Okay, at least on this monthly chart. But things are not looking good at all for the Dow Jones. And again, we are looking like this is a continuation pattern. And I personally think that this is going to test the 17,000 area. Okay, the low 17,000. Right now we're at 17,500. Again, this being a recent high right here. This resistance is now turned support. So again, we've already tested this level 2 times. So we could see this market drop here, maybe make a little bit more of a move to the upside. But ultimately, it just doesn't really look all that great. We'll see what happens. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.